Hello there, people of the internet. This is a little list that I'm doing comparing, well, I see a lot of different people out there making a bunch of different lists talking about all sorts of different things, and I don't think that I've seen one made quite like this. There's a lot of firearms mythology out there in terms of people hyping up firearms way more than what they're actually supposed to be or mechanically designed to be or anything like that. So this right here is like a list of like 5 extraordinarily overrated firearms. They have such a cult following behind them, and well, basically just all the mythology surrounding them, normally passed around by people who have not actually used them in the field, but by people who have just kind of brought them to the gun range and whatnot. People have not necessarily relied on them in adverse situations. These people pass around different myths and whatnot behind how good certain firearms are, and I have seen just a tremendous amount of mythologies around these 5 firearms. So this right here is the first one. This is the SKS, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know, and this might make some people upset, but I do want to just say that I'm not calling these firearms bad, not by any stretch of the imagination. As a matter of fact, this particular SKS is probably one of my all-time favorite rifles. I absolutely love these things. However, people compare these to being just as good, or if not better, as the AK. They like to talk about carrying more ammunition because they can be carried on stripper clips. That's fine and dandy. I don't care how much ammo you have on you if you're taken out when you only fired 20 rounds, because it takes you a millennia and a half to reload with those crappy Chinese-made stripper clips that you decided to buy. That's a topic for another time. So these right here, they are not as good as the AK. They're longer, more cumbersome. They're you can't mount anything to these without turning them into a Bubba sporterized rifle. But if you're gonna do that, you're basically just doing what the AK has already done. You're getting an AK with more steps. If you're going to go with the SKS and make arguments for the SKS being as good as the AK, then you got to go with the SKS. You can't just turn it into an AK. You can't mount optics on this thing. Anyone who's ever disassembled and cleaned one of these, there's little bits and pieces inside the firing system that is just not ideal for the field. If you're out cleaning this thing while laying in the grass or the dirt or somewhere, and you lose one of those little pieces in that firing system, guess what? Your firearm's no longer functional. It's no longer going to work. You might be able to single load the thing, but besides that, you are SOL, up a creek without a paddle. Now, if you're going to say it's not that bad, you don't got to clean it anyway, well, go out and fire some corrosive steel case ammo through this and let me know how that works out for you. For the people who like to talk about scavenging ammunition, there's plenty of corrosive 7.62 by 39 out there. So you're going to go ahead and run that. Guess what? You do got to clean your rifle, otherwise it's going to seize up, and yeah, you don't want that. Anyone who's actually had to take these apart and clean them knows it's not ideal, especially compared to the AK, which is significantly less moving parts. So this right here is one of the most overrated guns ever that I've ever seen. And they compare it to modern fighting rifles, and it is not a modern fighting rifle. This right here is something that, and this is World War II technology right here. Not a modern fighting rifle at all. Alright, up next is my all-time favorite handgun, the 1911 and 45 ACP. We're talking about the traditional 1911, not a double-stack 9mm 2011 or anything like that. This particular one is made by Tisos, however that's pronounced. It's a Turkish 1911 clone. I've put quite a few rounds through this thing. It has served me well. 8-stack 45 or 8-round magazine, single stack 45 ACP. This right here is definitely yesterday's technology. Nowadays we got 45 ACPs that can hold 15 rounds for the amount of size that you get. This is also a steel frame handgun, way heavier than it needs to be whenever we compare it to a polymer frame handgun. It's also hammer fired, which means if you want to carry this thing appendix and whatnot, you got this hammer constantly jabbing inside of you. Long story short, people say because this went through 2 world wars that it is good enough to basically handle anything. Well, guess what? The technology that was around in World War I and World War II, they weren't really all that different. But the modernization of technology from World War I to World War II, like for example with the M1 Garand, put the 1890s technology that most people were using in World War II to absolute shame. The M1 Garand was a godsend on the battlefield in comparison to the late 1890s stuff that most countries were using whenever they went up against that technology. The same argument can be made today. This right here is early 1900s technology. If we were to compare this to like a Glock with, I don't know, so let's just call it a Glock 17, right? Significantly higher capacity. We can mount an optic to it very, very easily, or insert your choice of double stack modern gun that has an optic on it and a polymer frame to make it easier to carry around, and a striker fire system, something that is both single action and double action. Like there's much, much better options. This right here absolutely could still get the job done. As a matter of fact, I got one of these. I think it's a Rock Island version. I got one of these in my vehicle. That's my vehicle gun in the event that I need to use it. I take these out hunting, and they become my hunting guns. And yeah, it's a really, really good option for a lot of practical things. But the technology we have nowadays has just left this in the dust. But because of the reputation that this gun has and what it's gone through before, people say that, with what it's gone through before, it just has not come up against the technology that we have now. Maybe in World War III, we'll see how it stands up against a modern technology. But yeah, we'll have to play that one by ear. That would completely be by speculation. Anyone who can run one of these very effectively could run a modern, higher capacity optic handgun just as effectively. Anyway, that right there is our number 2 pick. Alright, our number 3 pick is basically any Lee Enfield design out there. Wait a second. What are you doing here? No, you don't deserve to be on this list. You have earned your reputation, buddy. Alright, the actual number 3 on this list is going to make a lot of people angry, but just hear me out before you go lynching me in the comments. So, number 3 on the list, AK-47, chambered in 7.62 by 39. Of course, there's modernized AKs out there, but those modernized AKs are basically doing what the standard AR is. So, yeah. Okay. The argument for the AK is going to be like the base form wood stock wood hand grip AK, which is definitely not going to be ideal for most situations. A lot of people talk about the reliability of the AK. Well, go watch InRange's mud tests and let me know what is more reliable, the AR or the AK. 7.62 by 39, fantastic cartridge. I've made videos talking about how it is one of the best cartridges out there for basically most applications and most people. But that being said, the 7.62 by 39 does have a lot of hype for it that is just not deserved. One of the things that I talk about is its capabilities out at distance, and the main limitations of 7.62 by 39, just its drop and lack of velocity and whatnot, limits it to like within 400 yards, and I always get comments from people telling me, well, I can make a shot with that out to 800-900 yards plus, and it's plenty effective, and I can shoot a Coke can at 710 yards with a 22 long rifle. You're just incompetent and need to be a better shooter. Yeah, whatever. So the AK-47, it is more reliable whenever it comes to longevity of the rifle than something like the AR. The AR, just the way that the impingement gas system works, you got to keep the thing clean, otherwise it will just stop running. And in some sort of SHTF situation or something like that, you're not going to always be able to keep your gun clean. You're going to run out of gun cleaning stuff, so that's one of the times where something like the AK-47 would absolutely shine. However, if you think that you can just dunk this thing into the mud and it's going to continue working regardless, you are incorrect. Like I said, reference InRange's mud tests, and you will see that. So, fantastic rifles, not necessarily all that accurate. They can be made to be accurate, but a lot of accuracy limitations comes with the ammunition that is being used, which oftentimes is the cheapest bottom of the barrel steel case ammo that people can get their hands on, which is one of the reasons why these have a bad reputation with accuracy. But we got to take ammunition into account whenever it comes to these rifles. So AK-47, definitely a fantastic platform, one of my all-time favorites, bar none, but it has way more hype for it than it actually deserves, especially whenever it comes to its reliability and capabilities at long distances. It's just not designed with those sorts of things in mind. Alright, up next is my all-time favorite rifle. This right here, once I close the bolt on it, is the M1 Garand, however it is you feel like pronouncing that. Let me move this out of the way. So the M1 Garand is like one of those mythologically amazing rifles. It's one of those dream guns that everybody wants. I myself have two of them, and it is by far my favorite gun if we're talking about just emotionally speaking. The sights on the Garand are fantastic. The cartridge is fantastic. The ping sound as the end-block clip flies onto the gun is fantastic. Lots of really, really good things going on with this rifle. However, this is 1930s technology. You need a clip to be able to shoot this gun, unlike something like the SKS where you can just single load the rounds into the gun. That is probably one of the hugest downsides for this rifle. You don't need a clip for the SKS, you need the clip for the M1 Garand. It only holds 8 rounds of ammunition versus most of your self-loading rifles today, which are going to hold something along the lines of 30, or if we're talking intermediate, or not intermediate, if we're talking full power rifles like the FAL or the G3 or something like that, we're going to lean more into 20 rounds. So M1 Garand, fantastic rifle, but it is not, absolutely not, like the end-all, be-all, absolute mother load of a rifle that everybody seems to think it is. The 30-06 that it fires needs to be of a specific specification, otherwise you will destroy your operating rod unless you go out of your way to replace the gas system with an updated gas system and fine-tune it for the particular ammunition that you are running. You go swapping ammos and suddenly your gas system might not work, your firearm might not cycle, so you actually have to burn ammunition in order to cycle that firearm. So the M1 Garand definitely has its limitations, but still a fantastic rifle. My all-time favorite. We also have the bolt and operating system up here completely exposed to the elements. We got a big hole in the back of the receiver where all the fire control stuff is. It's just not a modern design by any means. So, great rifle, can absolutely do a lot, but it is far from what the hype of modern days says it is. Alright, another really, really overhyped firearm, the Mosin Nagant. This right here is going to make some people upset, but you know what? Let's go ahead and talk about it. People love telling me that the White Death used one of these very, very effectively. I think it was either during the Winter War or Continuation War, sometime around that time period whenever he was going up against the Soviets. Well, the White Death did not have to contend with, like we would have nowadays, thermals and optics and drones and things like that. If we had, modern technology and somebody tried running around in the snow with a Mosin Nagant picking off people, guess what? A drone with some thermal and some optics and whatnot, some IR, would be able to spot him from literally miles away, and he would be taken out basically immediately. So just because somebody ran around 80 plus years ago with one of these and used it very effectively, the technology of the time period, this right here was definitely on par with what was existing for that time. However, nowadays, no, definitely not. You're not going to go running around in the snow with a Mosin whenever we have the ability to see you from literally across the planet. It's just not going to happen. So for all the people who love bringing this up, it's a 5-shot, full-power rifle, bolt action. It's yesterday's technology. It is a yesterday's version of a battle rifle. So, no, this is absolutely not going to be a thing. Alright, this right here is my top 5 list. So, hopefully I didn't make too many people upset, but I imagine I probably did, and I'm going to be yelled at in the comments a whole bunch. So, thanks for watching, folks. Appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I will see you guys on the next episode. else I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.